Welcome, everybody, here to the Basketball Passport Podcast. I'm Anthony Irwin, Senior Lakers Insider for Clutch Points, joined on this fine Monday evening by Leigh Ellis, whose silky smooth jumper you saw in that intro. Leigh, I'm kind of curious. Like, this happens every time you say something that, like, might be slightly controversial, right? Like, I get it a lot. Oh, this guy can't possibly know what he's talking about. He looks like he hasn't dribbled a basketball ever in his life. Do you ever get that? Like, because you have plenty of clips of you like
Yeah.
dribbling and shooting basketballs.
Well, I also edit all my own clips too, so that probably helps.
Oh man, this normally would be a Sunday episode, which means I take the reins, which is why you see two straight. We will be talking a lot about the Lakers here in this episode. We'll talk about that. We would have been recording this yesterday on the 5-year anniversary of Kobe's passing, so we are going to give our fondest Kobe memories here to start the show. Then we'll talk a little bit about the basketball that the Lakers have been playing since Rui Hachimura has been hurt, and since Dorian Finney-Smith has been playing a more active role in the rotation. Right before we started recording today, we had the latest update in the Jimmy Butler, Pat Riley staring contest that everybody I think is pretty sick of. So we'll discuss that one, and then we also got a word earlier today that Mac McClung is going to be defending his two dunk contest championships, two straight It's the three-peat everybody is talking about.
That's
No
right.
other attempt at a three-peat that is even slightly relevant in sports. And then to wrap the show up, Leigh will be teasing this week's destination. Quick reminder, please do hit that subscribe button here on YouTube for Basketball Passport. If you guys are listening and you want to know where to find us, you can find us at youtube.com/@basketball passport. And then if you guys want to send us an email, you can do so at the nice, quick, easy email to remember, basketballpassportpod@gmail.com. Yeah, let's go ahead and get this thing going. The 5-year anniversary obviously is a tough one. For one thing, I can't believe it's already been 5
Oh,
years.
yeah.
I just absolutely mind-boggling. Leigh, I'll let you get us
Yeah.
started off here with your favorite Kobe memory.
I mean, so many. And I would say, honestly, early on, I'd heard about Kobe. And when I'm saying early on, I'm saying like when he was drafted and it was like, hey, this guy's going to be good. And I was like, yeah, the Lakers already have Eddie Jones. Seems like a little bit of overlap here
Yeah,
with Kobe. And then basically they figured out pretty quickly, okay, this is Kobe's spot.
yeah,
But it was also at a time where once Michael Jordan retired for the second time, and then there was the NBA lockout and the strike and whatever there in 98, 99, it was that one season where I ignored the NBA because I was living in England as well at the time. And I'd sort of like, if these guys can't get it together, then who cares? And Jordan's not there anymore. Anyway, so I got back in the playoffs in the year 2000. And my favorite Kobe game of all time is game 4 against the Indiana Pacers when
hmm
Shaq fouls out. I think Kobe only has 28 points in that game. He doesn't actually have a huge, he doesn't go for 47 or anything like that.
yeah,
But it's what he does when Shaq gets fouled out and how he
on a bum
controls the
ankle.
game. Yeah. He was 21 years old and I was in England and I watched that and I was like, oh, okay. That was pretty cool because
Yeah,
Kobe was in foul trouble as well in that game. And
yep,
he hit the sort of step back over Reggie Miller. Then he hit another sort of long bomb, but it was the one where Brian Shaw went in with the looper. It popped up, and Kobe had a little reverse tip in that sealed the game there for the Lakers. And he has that cool celebration. He's walking off
yeah. It's
just
like
like,
we're
take it
good.
easy. Like again, like a veteran, like a 30-year-old guy who's in the finals for the fourth or fifth time. And so that was the moment where I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to start paying attention to this guy. And obviously, from there, he really, that was their first championship. They won 3, and then he would win a couple more. But there was obviously, there were times where I didn't like him when he and Shaq sort of fell out and they traded Shaq, and it was like, man, you just gave away your best chance at another championship.
Yeah.
So I sort of, I there was a time there where I was like, I don't really like who he is, even though he was a great player and he scored all those points and everything. But then when as he got a little older and a little more mature, I saw Father Kobe, and I was like, man, look how proud he is to be a father of his 4 girls in the end. And that
Yeah.
was where I really felt that, like most of us, I mean, most of us don't grow up in the spotlight, whereas he did. And so, when you grow up in the spotlight, you're going to have some of those bratty moments, and he had plenty of those. But ultimately, he came through in the end, and I thought it was great to see how he overcame everything. And in the end, it was like a movie where I wouldn't say hate the main character, but for a while there, you're not really pulling for him. But in the end, you're just like, man, he did it. Like he won me over, and it was great to see. And when I lived in Toronto, the Raptors only came. The Lakers only came once a year. And I remember Kobe. I went down for a couple of those games, and I remember him saying one time, like, hey, I'm in Toronto once a year, man. I want to put on a show, and he always did. And he had 46 one night in a win, and he put on a great performance. And I'm like, that's what you want out of a player. It was a Tuesday in February. The Raptors were nowhere really near. Maybe they were in the playoffs, but nowhere near contending. That's the sort of night where Kobe could have just cruised along. But instead, it felt like, hey, I'm a showman and I've got to put on a show. And he did that. And then I guess ultimately the last memory I have of him was in 2010. It was around that same game where he actually missed the game winner against the Raptors. He got a pass and he threw it up there. It was a bit of a rough pass. He only had a second to get it up. He got it up near the rim, but it missed. And afterwards, I was an intern at the time for the Score, and it was a Sunday game, and the main reporter just didn't want to go for some reason. And I was like, I'll do it, of course. It's the Lakers. So as you know, with the Lakers, there was thousands of media there, and it was sort of primetime Kobe. And after the game, he was going to get his massage and a shower, and he took forever. And I just happened to be standing unintentionally sort of right in front of his place where he was getting changed. And he sort of came out and no one really noticed. And then all of a sudden, all the lights of the cameras just flicker on, and Kobe turns around. And I'm looking at him like I'm looking at you right now. And I'm waiting because, especially with the traveling media back then, this is 2010, always show respect to the, the beat writers and the guys who cover every single game.
Yeah.
But there was a pause of literally like 1.5 seconds. And I'm like, that's long enough. You had your chance.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, Kobe, what happened on that last play? And it got a good shot, just couldn't knock it in. And, something very, nothing great, but that clip ran all over Sports Center and everything. And no one heard my name. No one saw me, but I was like, wow.
Yeah.
It was, and so it was incredible to be in that position as an intern with all the sort of intimidating Los Angeles media. And I just got the plum question in there, and he answered it as if, like there was he wasn't sort of looking around as if like, where's the normal, Mike Trudell or someone like that. It was almost just like, that's the question, I'll answer it. And it was incredible.
He probably respects somebody shooting a shot,
Probably. Yeah. Yeah.
He's also like, man, you guys don't have to waste my time. Yeah, so I talked about this on my shows and talked about like him as a father, and that's the stuff that I'll always kind of cherish the most is watching Kobe go from bratty teenager to the nonsense that we saw with him and Shaq, and then obviously had the Colorado stuff, and just over the years you just kept on. He was very much a flawed person who just continued to work and work and work and work and try to be the best version of himself. And, the thing that I really respect most, and I'll always remember about Kobe most, is how if he did anything at all, he wanted to be the best in the world at whatever he was doing, and he entered the NBA. He wanted to be the best basketball player he could possibly be. There were nights where like Phil Jackson would kind of like dig at him for shooting too much. He'd be like, all right, Phil, fine. Here's 17 assists.
Yeah.
You want me to be a passer? I'll be the best passer in the world. He was an incredible on-ball defender too, and all that stuff. But then after he retired and he got into like content making and video making, he won himself an Oscar, and then he brought that passion for life into being a father and wanted to be the absolute best dad he could be. And so when Gianna started showing a real interest in basketball, he said, "Cool, I'll sit with you front court or court side, and I'll utilize my kind of place within basketball to help you learn the game if it's something that you're really interested in." And then he also used his voice to really prop up women's basketball. He was a huge proponent for it. So that's really what I'm going to remember most about him. If I had to like find basketball memories, it's actually a game that he would say he didn't play very well in, but when the Lakers beat Boston in Game 7, and he shot like shit.
24 or something, wasn't it, that day?
Yeah, it was like 8 of 24.
Yeah.
He couldn't throw a pea in the ocean. And I'll never forget an interview or a soundbite that he gave after the game. He was like, "We're down by 13 in like the third quarter or the fourth quarter, something like that." And I'm thinking like, there's no way this is how this is going to end. So he said, "All right, fine. I can't shoot. I can rebound. All of my misses just means there's more to rebound." And he grabbed like 16 rebounds in the game. Because he couldn't shoot there late in the fourth, he basically just put his head down and tried to get to the basket, got to the free throw line a ton to continue to have his impact offensively. And that's the thing, is that like, there was adversity was just not really a concept that he was all that interested in. He was always going to find some way to help the Lakers win. And that's my favorite like Lakers memory. And then my favorite basketball game of all time was the game where he's on the Redeem team and they play Spain in the gold medal game. Spain was playing incredibly. That was a really, really close game. It gets close there in the fourth quarter. And all of the game's greats, LeBron, Melo, Dwight, Dwayne, I think Chris Paul was on that team too.
I think so.
Maybe?
Yeah.
Like all of the next era of basketball that was like already great, right? Like LeBron was in his prime. Kevin Durant, no, he was on the next team. But they all kind of looked at Kobe and they were like, "Take us home, man." And that was incredible. And he did, right? He did take them home. They did win that game. And the fact that, because at that time there was all that, there was, Twitter was this newish thing. And there was always this discourse of like, is James Harden better than Kobe? Is so-and-so better than Kobe? It was the surest way to get engagement was to say some shooting guard was better than Kobe, because Lakers fans weren't going to take it very well. That was also like the pinnacle of the LeBron Kobe debate, all that stuff. And they just kind of solved it for us. They were like, "No, he's the dude. He's the dude who's going to take us home here." And so I'll never forget that. That was an absolutely incredible game. It's actually available usually on YouTube. I'll watch it from time to time.
Yeah. No, I mean, when you're around for as long as he was, and obviously he came in pretty hyped up, and he had he had attitude like a lot of people do. Like it's tough to live up to that, especially in Los Angeles, for the Lakers. And those first couple of seasons there, they weren't good. They couldn't get past, I think it was the Jazz and the Spurs, I think, that eliminated them. And, again, eventually, once they broke through, it felt like certainly in 2001, and in 2002 for sure, the Nets had no chance. But 2001 against the Sixers, that first game where Iverson goes for 48 or 46, whatever it was. And I was like, oh, this could be on here. And then Kobe came back, and look, Shaq was the Finals MVP, but Kobe was pretty dominant as well. Yeah, and it was great. So but he had that sort of he had that coolness about him as well, though, with the fro. The early Kobe fro was great. Remember he had the sweatband on the bicep as well. So he had the swagger as well, and he had the game to back it up. And a couple of great battles in 2001 and 2002 with the Kings in the playoffs, where he was really, really good in some of those games. And yeah, I mean, just obviously just a still unbelievable moment
Yeah.
5 years ago when it happened. And it was a Sunday then, I remember. And, it's one of those things. It's like, yeah, like 5 years ago, and boom, that's how quickly it goes. So
Yeah.
sad, sad day.
Yeah. A further testament also to like his like passion for being great at everything that he did at that time. I think his shoe is still probably the most popular shoe for NBA players to wear. And it was the first shoe that was the low cut shoe.
Yeah.
And he like specifically helped Nike
Yeah.
study
Design it.
like
Yeah.
the mechanics behind it and why it would actually be safe. There was, they really wanted to secure the heel and all that stuff. And he did not do anything half-ass. And I really respect the fact that like Jeannie Buss approached him to work alongside Magic Johnson when she took over and she employed Magic. And he told her, he was like, I would really, really want to be great at this, but I don't have the bandwidth to be as great as I would want to be and as great as you would need me to be. Here's Rob Pelinka. Now that part of it, I kind of regret a little bit, but the fact that he like understood and knew how much work goes into working in the NBA and being a GM or being a vice president of basketball operations like that. And the fact that he was like, no, I can't do that. And I wouldn't do the job. I would be doing the job a disservice, and I would be doing this team a disservice if I took this job just because I'm Kobe. I really respect that too. So yeah, I miss him greatly. I think the sport misses him greatly. You have this kind of sometimes counterproductive rivalry between international players and domestic players. And I think Kobe would help kind of iron out some of those wrinkles and make it more productive than it has been to this point. But regardless, I really miss the guy quite a bit, and we're gonna try to move on here and talk about the Lakers, who before we were recording, as like literally, I was eating dinner, and the Lakers were up by like 20, and they just brought out like they Rui has been hurt the last couple of years or games.
James. Yeah.
No, the guy who's been hurt the last couple of years is Vanderbilt, but Rui he tweaked his calf and hasn't been in the starting lineup for the last couple of games. And Dorian Finney-Smith has taken his place in the starting lineup, somebody who people have kind of been clamoring for in that starting lineup anyway. So they have been able to go to that group for the last couple of games. The Lakers were up by 20 at one point on Charlotte. And I'm like, man, I can't wait to talk about the Lakers. This is great. They beat Boston. They beat Golden State. They're beating the crap out of Charlotte here. And once you know it, Charlotte crawls back into the game. It's a 10-point game right now. But those wins, they beat the Golden State Warriors and they beat the Boston Celtics by a combined 30 points over those that 2-game span. I had Sam Esfandiari, who covers the Warriors for Light Years on the show. He's of the opinion that the Lakers are actually a couple tweaks away from being a contender. Do you see them that way?
I mean, I think because outside of OKC, I don't really know who the second best team is. I think the Rockets are there right now, and the Grizzlies are very, very close too. I don't think the Lakers fear the Rockets,
No.
and I don't think I think the Grizzlies at full strength just provide a tough matchup for them. We've seen that over the last couple of seasons. But as always, it just comes down to who's playing the right way, how healthy players are at the time, and things could break your way. LeBron, I thought that game against the Celtics, I didn't really take too much out of the Warriors game because obviously the Warriors are not playing very well, and
Yeah.
there was no Draymond either in that game. Like they should have won that game, and they did. But the Celtics was a good, like, hey, you got to beat this team up, and they did. And so I thought that was more impressive. But right now, again, I think the Thunder are the best team, and I think the Lakers are not quite there yet. But again, there's a couple of weeks here still to go before the trade deadline. What that move is and how Rob Pelinka makes it, I'm not sure. But there's enough evidence, I think, there to suggest that the Lakers, they're certainly better than they were last season. I think at this point, it's just now whether or not they can keep it all together, and whether or not Anthony Davis can stay on the floor too, because that's been something that has derailed them in previous seasons, where you just don't quite know what you're going to get out of him. But at his best, he's once again shown to be really good.
AD dropped 20 and 10 in the first quarter against
in the first quarter.
The first quarter.
Wow. Well, he was going up against Nick Richards and
yeah, it does help when you're playing the Charlotte Hornets. I don't care, man. You could be playing Mother Mary the Blind. 20 and 10 in a quarter is pretty impressive.
That is. Yeah.
But yeah, and actually Taj Gibson just got into the game here for the Charlotte Hornets.
You may as well have said like Ty Corbin got into the game. When you say Taj Gibson, it's like, how is he still going? I respect Taj. He was hitting threes down here at practice or warm up here against the Hawks. And I just wanted to say, how are you still in the league? And if you are in the league, how are you not being coached by Thibs? I don't understand it. But,
right.
And now he's getting legit minutes against the Lakers. So,
it's an 8-point game with 6 minutes to go in the third, and he's out there. Random funny story. One of my favorite things about Vegas is like, for Summer League, Vegas Summer League, is that like you could sit down at a bar and find yourself sitting next to just about anybody and crack up a really nice, fun conversation with anybody. It could be anybody in the league. And so Jen and I, Jen went to Vegas this last trip and wanted to see kind of what my life in Vegas is kind of like. And so I took her out one night and we were waiting at some bar while we waited for a reservation or something like that. And I have a glass of wine in front of me. She has a glass of Prosecco in front of her. And this guy sits down and he's very clearly like part of you could just tell guys are just kind of part of a player's kind of universe. So he sits down and he's like on his phone and Jen and I happen to be talking about Bronny. And he like kind of like shouldered into the conversation and we were just talking or whatever. And I wound up asking him like, so who are you? Who are you connected to? And he goes, I'm Taj Gibson's like best friend from grade school.
Right.
And that was the night that Taj wound up like signing his, that it leaks that he's going to go to Charlotte. So it wound up being like this really funny thing. And so this guy, I asked him, was like, what are they expecting from Taj? He's like, we don't care. We got another contract.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But no, I mean, Taj is like one of the NBA's good guys, right?
Yeah.
Like, consummate vet, has been in the league forever, knows everything, knows everybody. And actually, I really like the move for Charlotte. They're this young team. I wish it's something that the Lakers would do, is bring in a little bit more veteran leadership for their younger guys to kind of learn from. But yeah, all that said, he shouldn't be playing.
He shouldn't be playing meaningful minutes. No, that's not good for your team. But they must be a bit short-handed there, the Hornets. But yeah, but that's the thing. With a vet like him, he's going to put his body out there. He's going to box out, and he could hit a three still. He can knock in that corner three. And I remember early Taj Gibson had some hops too. He had some big dunks in his early days. I haven't seen him dunk for a while, but I remember early on, I was like, man, this guy can throw it down.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the other factor here. Malcolm points out well that Nick Richards got traded, and now they only have one. They only have one center. You know what's funny? Actually, now that we're talking about Taj Gibson and veteran presence and all that stuff, Udonis Haslem retired, right?
Mm-hmm.
Last year, right?
Yes.
This is the
Yes.
first year in Miami that Udonis isn't there to kind of keep Jimmy
In line.
together.
Yeah.
You know, I actually think there's something to that. Jimmy Butler, according to Shams Karani of ESPN, suspended again, this time, quote unquote, indefinitely. It's at least going to be a 5-game suspension, which would carry him out for from now until the trade deadline. Oh, AD on the floor holding his eye. He's up again. But yeah, Jimmy Butler is now it really seems like this is the final kind of nail in the coffin.
Yeah.
Jimmy Butler probably has played his last game for the Miami Heat. Apparently he threw a temper tantrum when he found out that Haywood Highsmith was going to be starting and he would be coming off of the bench, coming off of his last couple suspensions. The NBPA, I don't think, has quite yet appealed the suspension. But it is something that it was probably going to happen because indefinite suspensions is not the kind of precedent that you want set. I don't know. I don't even know what to say about this anymore. I'm
Yeah.
just kind of sick of the story.
I think Jimmy needs to realize that I think the market for him is just not that hot right now, especially because he has that $50 million opt-in for next season. And again, we've seen it play out like this. And so, who is really lining up to get this guy with the baggage that you might have to pay 50 million next season? I mean, to make the deal happen, you would have to give up a lot anyway. And I just don't think it's out there. And I think that's probably, what the Heat are like right now. Like, man, we can't get rid of him right now. And Udonis Haslem, something of him, he was on ESPN, not too long ago. And even he was kind of like, I don't want anything to do with this situation. Like he knows how Riles and how the Heat front office works there. And he's, I think Pat Riley still holds that, that aura over even, someone like Udonis, who is a real Heat lifer in the sense that,
Right.
he really embodies that Heat culture. But, that when I look at Jimmy, I'm like, what you could have done to respond to this first suspension was to come out and say, okay, watch what I do out here now. I'm going to go out there and do the old, like he did with Andrew Wiggins and Karl Anthony Towns in Minnesota, where he said, I'm going to show you how good I am. I'm going to go out there and put up big numbers, drag the team to a win or two, but ultimately show how much value I've got and what I can still do. But pouting, hey, being told you're coming off the bench and you decide to throw a tantrum, walk out of practice, all that does is prove to the Heat, like, yeah, this is the right decision, is to suspend him because he's not being a professional. He's not doing what's being asked of him. He's taking, he's taking the approach of like, I'm the victim here. So the quicker it can be resolved, the better. What I think might happen is after playoff eligibility passes, which is usually around March, I think the Heat might just waive him and say, all right, go wherever you want, but you won't be able to make the playoffs. You won't be able to play on a playoff team. And I don't know how that will work with the
that
player
would
option.
guarantee his
option. So maybe not, but I just think that the Heat, I don't think we'll see him in a Heat jersey ever again now.
No.
I did say that after the first suspension, and I was surprised he came back, but now the Heat seem like, right, get out of here, and one way or another they'll figure it out. And listen, maybe they even do just eat his money and say, fine, all right, we'll take it. I don't know, but it just seems like Jimmy's tried to play hardball here with Pat Riley and Spo. And ultimately, I think he's going to end up looking bad and worse for it because, Pat Riley doesn't bow to anybody. He traded Shaq and he traded Dwayne Wade and Jimmy, compared to those guys, is nowhere near the same caliber of player that Wade was at the time in Miami and ultimately who Shaq was when he was in Miami. He won them a championship.
I don't think anybody looks very good here. I think Pat should have traded Jimmy before the season. As soon as you don't give Jimmy the extension that he wants, he's going to wreak havoc. He's not going to handle that very well. And I think we've seen that kind of play out that way. Callie obviously has her thoughts as well. But the part of this that I couldn't help but laugh at, are you really suspending a guy if he's walking out of your facility?
Yeah.
Like, you can't quit, you're fired. Like,
Yeah.
I just did like all of this. It just seems so juvenile and so petty and from everybody here. And yeah, I can't wait for it to be done. There was a report, Windhorst, I guess, was saying that the Bulls um and Phoenix had a few conversations about swapping Levine and Beal. And then I don't know if that would help facilitate a Jimmy Butler deal or what. I would actually really like to see Levine.
Well, the Suns
in
also
Miami.
made that trade for those 3 first-round picks too with the
Yeah.
Jazz.
Mhm.
So it certainly looks like the Suns are close to doing a deal here with someone. Who that is or what that is, I'm not sure. But I mean, it seems like Phoenix is the most likely destination, and if the Heat are prepared to take on Beal's contract, that seems like that's where it's going to go. So maybe the Heat have said, "Listen, we'll take Beal's contract, but you got to throw in a few first-round picks." You know, again, they're not going to be great picks anyway, but maybe that's what is done, because otherwise it doesn't make any sense for the Suns to make that deal now, unless they're going to basically, move those picks on in a deal for someone to take Beal's contract.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too there is Beal has a no trade clause.
Yeah.
So he also has to wherever he goes. Now, apparently he would be open to Miami, and I guess he would also be open to the Lakers. But the Lakers have, to their credit, not gotten involved in any of this at all.
Well, and
I really wish the Warriors would just buck up and trade for Jimmy Butler.
Yeah.
Like, they have so much mediocrity on that roster, and they clearly aren't going anywhere. I would trade for Jimmy Butler, see if he becomes a good soldier for the remainder of this year. And if he opts into the contract next year, that just means you have a huge expiry next year. Like, I don't know. They clearly aren't. The Warriors aren't going anywhere with like the Andrew Wiggins and Jonathan Kumingas of the world. So give Steph a superstar to play with, something he hasn't had basically since Klay Thompson got hurt, and see what comes of it for the remainder of this year. And then if you have a hard reset, then you have a hard reset, but you've at least given yourself that opportunity to do a little bit of winning with Jimmy Butler there. I actually also really like the idea of Jimmy Butler in Denver, where Michael Porter Jr. has not been very good this season and doesn't deal very well with playoff physicality and that kind of stuff. And we just saw the Minnesota Timberwolves go into Denver and beat the crap out of them, and literally beat the crap out of them. They scored like 70 something points in the paint against Denver. So I would like to see Jimmy there. Like, there are options here. The problem, Lee, that I have with like the way that the league is kind of operating right now, everybody is so risk averse. Like, it drives me crazy. Executives don't want to trade for a player because they have years left on their contract, but then they don't also want to trade for players because they might have to pay them in the upcoming off season. And it's like, you can't have a both. We're just not trading for people anymore.
Yeah.
Like, this is just going away. It's crazy.
Yeah. The only thing I'd say though as well about Jimmy, he seems pretty determined to get to Phoenix.
Yeah.
I'm like, have you seen Phoenix though right now as well? I mean, I don't know.
They're the only team that wants to give him the extension he wants.
Yeah. Which is like, okay. I'm not sure that's going to cure the challenges they're facing right now, but
yeah. Well, he defends better than Beal does. He does the small things better than Beal does. To the extent they need those small things done, but they need more help beyond that.
Yeah, but are you going to give him 2 years and 120 on top of that? Well, maybe not on top of that 50. He may opt out of that and just sign for 2 years and 120. But like, oh,
yeah.
Good luck.
We had a great question here from Peace Love Mungbean, asking, many players reflect on Kobe setting the standard of professionalism for the next generation. Which player plays that role currently in the league? You
I mean,
know,
I would go with Steph, I think, for that. I mean,
yeah,
I think when you look at the other players, like LeBron, is still obviously regarded highly, but I think that Steph has got that one team sort of aura about him. He's got the
yeah,
championships, he's got the gold medal, he's got the MVPs, he's got everything there, and the record for the 3-point shooting and everything like that. I sort of feel, and I'll say, from my own experiences with Steph, like what I probably admire the most about him is for as great a shooter as he is, it's a Tuesday night in Atlanta last March or February, and he's out there going through his routine exactly as he would do as if it's game 7 of the finals.
yeah,
And so that's where I saw Ray Allen do that a couple of times, and I so admire those guys who are just the most beautiful shooters, but they actually don't just live off those sort of mechanics and that DNA. Instead, it's like I'm putting in the work, and Steph and Bruce Fraser out there. I'm just like, there's not a shock that he's still performing himself at a high level, and what happened in the gold medal in Paris. It's like, you know, this is not chance or luck or coincidence or just, hey man, you're Del Curry's kid. Like Steph really shows that he puts the work in still now. He's just as motivated, just as determined, and we still see it. So I would say it's him. Again, KD and LeBron obviously are two of the other better players. I'm not quite sure they have the same sort of, that same role because they've moved around a few different teams.
yeah. The issue there is I don't know how outspoken Steph is with the next generation of players. Kobe was very invested in LeBron's success and the next generation's success, and I don't necessarily see that in the same way from honestly anybody in the current generation.
What I will say is Kevin Durant, he gets obviously into it on social media and stuff with people, but I've spoken to him a couple of times and he always pays respect to other
To
players
the
in the
next
league.
guys.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So KD, he's someone who does sort of look at other guys and say, man, this guy's a legit baller, and he's kind of got their back. So, but sometimes people don't want to acknowledge the good side of someone who they just want
They're
to pick on
competing
for,
against.
like, man,
Yeah.
where's the burner account and all that sort of stuff. And it's like, okay, yep, he did it, he admitted it.
Yeah.
But like all of us, man, you can't just sort of hold on to that one thing forever.
Yeah. All right. Let's also move on quickly to Mac McClung. Is going to be participating in the dunk contest again this year. This time he's actually doing so as an NBA player. So progress. Uh, Leigh, I'm going to put up on the screen here this year's contestants.
Mm.
I don't like out of like what percentile NBA fan do you think could name
Oh,
2 out of 4 of these guys? 1 out of 4 of these guys.
very near none. I mean, well, one or two. Yeah, this
So you
is
have from left to right, it's what AJ Brown, right?
green, isn't it?
Green, oh, different color. All right. So you have Mac McClung with the crown. Then you have Matas Buselis.
Brusalis, yeah.
Yeah, from Chicago. And then you have Stephon Castle, who I think I would be McClung's gonna win it because he has all kinds of time on his hand to like go through whatever dunks he's gonna be doing. He is an incredible dunk contest presence or whatever. But yeah, it makes it so difficult to get into this thing. I've said on a couple of times for the show what Jen and I do every year for the dunk contest, and like I wish that I could, she would be able to sit there and recognize one NBA player
Yeah.
participating in this thing. The thing is, correct me if you think I'm way off here, but the NBA has put all kinds of money and effort into fixing the All-Star game. They have put all kinds of money and effort into mid-season basketball with that in-season tournament to try to get people like more interested in that. They have, added the play-in tournament in order to make the end of the season that much more interesting as well. Like they have shown creativity. They have done some cool stuff in order to try to prop up or save the things that they consider really important. Given the fact that they haven't done absolutely anything to the format of the dunk contest, really, or done anything to incentivize better players to participate in this thing, am I wrong to take from that the message from the NBA that like they just don't care about this thing anymore?
I think they've given up to an extent for sure. Adam Silver, I remember last season saying something to the effect of, we've kind of accepted that the game won't be competitive, and as far as the dunk contest, I mean, again, no disrespect to any of those players, and even to Mac McClung, who's won it twice. His dunks are fine, but there's just no way Mac McClung winning it sounds the same as Ja Morant versus Anthony Edwards in a dunk contest. And that's one of the things that, you know, I would work with the the Players Association to say, listen, first time All-Star or you're under 25, Anthony Edwards, you've got to get in the dunk contest, man. You have to. We can't have the showcase event. Like the dunk, what I love about the dunk is the expression of creativity. Like this is something you don't see in any other sport where guys can do some crazy stuff. But you can't, it's the last event on the Saturday night, and you're like, who are these dudes? And again, like if they throw down some good dunks, good on them. But it's just nowhere near as interesting to see those names as it would be to see, again, like exactly. There's a good example. Yeah, Zion, Edwards, Ja Morant. Now LeBron, he's going to end his career having never been in the 3-point shootout or the dunk contest. And he should have at least been in one of those. I think, like, even at this stage of his career, go in the 3-point shootout, LeBron. Why not? If you're not going to go in the dunk
like 40% from 3-point range.
Exactly, go in it.
Yeah.
Like that's also part of it. Like we're kind of talking about before, like which player embodies that sort of Kobe, sort of professionalism and sets the standard. Well, LeBron teasing he was going in the dunk contest 15 years ago and never going in it. That's part of it where he should have been. Like there is a part of that responsibility should fall on him to be like, all right, yeah, I get it. I'll go in and I'll show these guys, that I'm at least doing it now. That ship has sailed certainly for the dunk contest, but go in the 3-point shootout. Like if the players don't care and the best players don't care, then that's how you end up with a pool like this of completely no-name guys. Who again, if you're basketball fans, fine, we can sort of figure out who they are and watch those guys. But if you're trying to capture a bigger audience, you can't have those guys in your dunk contest in the showpiece event on the Saturday night. You just can't. And that's where I think the league has to work with the players union to be like, all right, like I say, guys, if they are in the All-Star game for the first time and they're young and athletic, under a certain age or under a certain amount of games, you have to go in at least one dunk contest. That's it. And that might at least then force the hand a little bit. So we do get Ja Morant and Anthony Edwards going at it, because I think those are the type of guys, they might be somewhat reluctant, but once they get into that competitive mode, that's when you're going to start seeing them, try to really start competing with each other. But right now it's like, man, San Francisco, Steph, we're in the Bay Area. It's like, oh man, who's going to be the Saturday night dunk contest? Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, this is something that I think LeBron has to wear to a certain extent. It's not only on him or whatever, but every previous generation's best player who could participate in the dunk contest did. Kobe did it. Vince did it. Michael did it. Dr. J did it. Like it used to be the thing that people like wait for on Saturday night. Now you have comments like this. I think are actually probably correct from Victor saying they should have 3-point contests go last now.
Yeah.
And maybe have the dunk contest be the warm-up thing and no longer have it be like the centerpiece of Saturday night.
Well, I mean, to that point, not a lot of people will agree with that, but I'm okay with it because the 3-point shootout, it's not subjective, right? Whereas the dunk contest is. And
Yeah.
that's what's happened in years gone
Well,
by,
you
where
have
it's like,
stars doing the 3-point contest.
yeah,
Steph does it.
yeah, exactly. Now, and he's done it 7 times, did it 8 technically against Sabrina last year. Now, he's won it twice. You don't need him to go in again. He's sort of done his part. He's played his role. He set the record and all that. But that's the one thing about the 3-point shootout is that you can't contest. There's no subjectivity to the winner. It's like this guy won because he scored the most points. Whereas in the dunk contest, there's been those times where it's like, oh my God, that was the best dunk of the night. And then you're like, well, hang on a minute, the judges went with this. And so it leaves
Yeah.
a bit of a sort of sourness in their mouth. So, but I'm interested because they're taking the all-star format of the game that I was attending in Brazil last year, of this, like these 4 teams and things like that. And for the dunk contest, because I was actually a judge in the dunk contest, there was no points. It was just like the faces of the dunkers, right? So there was, I think, 5 judges. 2 guys went against each other, and you held up the face of who you just said this guy was the best dunker. So then you don't have to worry about this was it a 10 or a 9 or whatever. You just say this guy won, and then you win because it's an odd number. It's like it's going to be 3-2. Worst case scenario, 4-1, 5-0 as well. So that way, then again, you take a little bit of the explanation out of it, because the one thing that I don't like about the dunk contest debate is that was a 10, that was a 9, was a 10, was a 9. What are you talking about? So at least this way you can just kind of instead say, let's just go with this guy because I thought he had the better dunk. And that's what it comes down to, is that subjectivity of it. If you're going to attach scores to it, that's where it becomes one of those things where people just completely, disagree with each other.
I am dying over here.
Right.
Stupid allergies are absolutely killing me. I swear, I'm not like crying over the state of the dunk contest.
Hey, I wouldn't blame you if you did.
It is something though that like I am like actually oddly passionate about, because at its best, it is the cool, like Vince Carter's run in, what was it, 2001? 2000 is one of the coolest feats of athleticism ever. And it was also made great because Jason Richardson was the other guy in that one. And I like, those guys didn't miss dunks. Both guys were all stars in their own right. Vince Carter's a Hall of Famer. Do you think Vince Carter would have been a Hall of Famer without the slam dunk contest stuff?
Yes. Almost out of service and longevity. And one thing I loved about Vince is he didn't go ring chasing at the end of his career. He was just like, I just want to go somewhere I can play, Yeah. And that's what he did. He was like, yep, I'll just keep playing until the wheels fall off. And I remember talking to him one time, and it was in his last season. And I said, are you going to miss this? He said, oh, yeah, playing a bit. I said, what about practice? He's like, no.
Yeah. No. He has one of the coolest lines ever, where he was talking to, I forget who was doing the interview, and they were like, you could still get up. Like, you could still get up there and dunk. And he was like, getting up isn't the easy part, or is the easy part. Landing from as high as I can jump is really difficult on my knees. And I'm like, man, I would love to be athletic enough to say something like that once in my life.
Yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and wrap this up by teasing where we are going to be going this week. As we have the Sunday. This episode obviously is taking place on a Monday, but normally Sundays take a look at the NBA, and then Thursdays or Fridays, I guess from now on, are going to look at the sport in a global way. So where are we going on Thursday?
Yeah, so Friday is the eternal derby between Partizan Belgrade and Red Star Belgrade. And I spoke to Bogdan Bogdanovic, former Partizan Belgrade player, about that. And Darko Rajakovic, the Raptors coach as well. He doesn't actually really have a horse in that race. He's from a different part of Serbia, though he did spend some time with Red Stars youth team. So I spoke to both of those guys to talk about it. And there's a lot at stake here in this one. So it's big. It's still the biggest derby, I think, in world basketball, because the fans go nuts. And I was there a couple of years ago, so I'm going to share a little bit of insight of that game. And also, no, it won't have been played by the time we go, unfortunately, but just to sort of see the build-up of it again and see what it means to the people of Belgrade and Serbia, because it's this is the one, if I was to say to anybody to attend any game outside of the United States, go to this one. This is the derby. I mean, the Athens derby is huge. Istanbul has a couple of derbies there too, but the Belgrade derby is the one for me that really is top of the pile. It's a wild experience.
For some reason, falls outside of rivalry week. Missed opportunity here, NBA. Push rivalry week back in and slide that in there. As we've been talking, Lee, the Lakers and Charlotte Hornets are now in a dogfight. 93-88 is the score with 8 minutes to go in the fourth. So
wow,
fantastic. Yeah, all of the good vibes. Just
actually,
all right.
Sorry, last thing, while we are talking as well, the Hawks tonight are severely short-handed, and Bogdan Bogdanovic is a DNP CD. So
trade's coming.
I hope not. But I'm a little worried that that's what it could mean. So
yeah. All right. That is going to do it here for this episode of the Basketball Passport podcast. We will rejoin again. We'll pick this back up on Friday with a more international version of the show. Until then, please do hit that subscribe button. Please hit that like button if you guys are watching live. If you guys are listening to this in the morning via podcast, hit that subscribe button wherever it is that you get your podcast, preferably on Odyssey. And until the next time you guys hear from us, I'm Anthony Irwin. That was Leigh Ellis. This has been Basketball Passport. Safe travels, everybody.